Welcome to Negotiation with Alice, your negotiation podcast. Everything that you do where you need to get on the same page with someone else is a negotiation. So whether you have to negotiate a contract with someone, or you simply need your boss to sign off on that program that you'd like to implement, or you want to figure out how to rebalance the chore structure in your home, or talk about what vacation you want to go on. All of these things are negotiations. So in my podcast, we go over both personal and professional conversations, which all are considered negotiation, and I will give you tips on how to come out ahead. Welcome to the show. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Negotiation with Alice. Today, I've got Alfredo Borodowski with us today. Alfredo, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here, Alice.
And I would love for you to tell the listeners a bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I am an expert on positivity, how people can really achieve peak performance. And I never expected to become an expert because, Alice, I was living a dream life. I come from Argentina, middle class, and I made it here in America. I was at that point a spiritual leader, a rabbi of one of the most prestigious congregations in the country. And I had also an office facing Central Park. I made it,
Right.
I didn't think about positivity. I was living it until one day, Alice, I lost everything. In 2013, I had a manic episode. I was wrongly medicated. And a congregant of mine who was a police officer gave me one of those shields, friends and family shields, and I began patrolling the highways of New York and telling people how to drive. And I was arrested, and I was accused of impersonating a police officer. And Alice, overnight, I was fired from my job. I lost all my friends who gave their back to me. I was hospitalized and diagnosed bipolar. I didn't know it until then. I was 53. And the press, because I was a rabbi, made a circus out of me. They even called me the road rage rabbi. And I was all over the press. And Alice, I went into the deepest depression. I was for 8 months on a couch, on a fetal position, unable to move. So darkness, obscurity, didn't see any future. It was the end for me. Until one day, and I don't know why and how, I stood up from the couch and I went upstairs to my office, to my study, and I found something on my desk which I do not know up to today how it got there. I found a yellow folder and I opened it. And it was the result of a positive psychology test I had taken. And I read my top strengths: curiosity, creativity, love of learning, perseverance, and bravery. And something turned on inside of me. And a month later, I went back to school to become a social worker. Through depression, through court cases, I basically went through school, the highest grades, and became a social worker, then certified in positive psychology. And I go around the world teaching people how to find their strengths. I'm going through the same experience I went through to maximize the potential and to achieve the dreams.
That is an amazing story, Alfredo. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's interesting because you bring that up, in the whole positivity and the mindset and the energy, right, is very much entwined with negotiation. And I think that you are working with peak performance. And so talk a little bit about how, negotiation and positivity, how are they intertwined?
On an earlier part of my life, when I was in Argentina, I was a lawyer in Argentina.
Oh, really?
Then I know a little bit also about negotiations from my legal career. But look, We know today from research that 70% of people in America do not know their strengths. There are 24 strengths of positive psychology: creativity, love of learning, humor, forgiveness, leadership. 70% of people do not know their inner strengths. There is an epidemic of strength blindness. And we know from research that if you know your strengths, knowing them, just knowing them, it gives you 9 times the chance of flourishing. And if you apply them, 18 times flourishing. That means that the average person, 70% of people, are working in life 9 times below what they naturally, because they already have the strengths, but they do not know them and do not know how to apply them.
Right.
This is absolute waste. I mean, that makes me so upset. Okay?
Yep.
And you know, we need to end that strength blindness. I was working with a corporation a few months ago, and I met with a sales team, and they were underperforming. Okay, and what did I do? I had a little bit of fun. You know, when you go to the optometrist, and they have this, you know, that you have to read the letters, they get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yes.
I prepare for each member of the team one of those, but with their strengths.
Interesting.
And I put them on the wall, and then I put them far away from it, and they had to take a step closer and closer and closer and closer until their strengths were revealed. And it was a transformation. Now, for negotiation, look, you need to negotiate at your best. You have to be in the best to the table.
Yep.
Okay? You have to be in top shape. And I say not because you want to win. You have to be in top shape because you want to be clear in your objectives, to express yourself with conviction, and also to be flexible and be able to listen well. And if you are 9 times below what you could be, then you're not going to be bringing to the table of negotiation all of yourself. Okay, then it is absolutely necessary that you know your inner strength to be able to show at your best and negotiate and mediate with integrity, conviction, purpose, and clarity.
So it sounds like if someone were to know what their inner strength was, they can lead with that in the negotiation in order to get to an amicable resolution, right?
Exactly, because your top 5 strengths are your more authentic, energizing, and motivating. And that's what you want to bring: authenticity, motivation, and energy.
Yes.
Okay? If you don't know, then all that is diminished.
Right. Right. That's very fascinating. And so, so I just want to know, talk a little bit about, just for example, if someone were to have a strength of humor, talk a little bit about how that particular inner strength can help them in a negotiation, just to give everyone an example.
I mean, first of all, I think that humor is the greatest tool we have for everything. Okay, sometimes we undervalue humor.
Yep.
By the way, you know, there are 24 strengths of positive psychology. We all are capable of all of them. It's not that you have one more than the other once you know them. It is that we have a preference to express ourselves with the top 5. But the last one on the list, we are able to do it too, but it's not the most preferred one.
Got it.
Then, no, humor. Humor creates relationships. Humor brings tension down. Humor allows you to say what otherwise you could not say.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
That's why comedians get away with things that are absolutely forbidden. Okay?
Yes.
Then humor is like a blank check to say what you couldn't say otherwise, in which the message comes across, which otherwise would be aggressive, and this time is palatable,
Yes.
okay, then humor also makes you a more accepted person. It's like breaks barriers. You know,
Yep.
the other person, it creates empathy, to say that in other words. You bring humor, you convey the sense that you are here to make things happen. Now, you need to distinguish between humor and sarcasm. Okay, sarcasm, not good.
Right.
Okay, okay, and there is a fine line that distinguishes them. Okay, it has to be humor with class.
Well, humor helps make the human connection tighter, right? And
Right.
when you are making a deeper connection with another human being, then you are willing to, uh, acquiesce a little bit more, compromise a little bit more, work together, collaborate, right? So humor is a powerful tool, and I always talk to my negotiation students, you know, uh, more than 50%, more like 70% of communication is nonverbal, right?
Yes. You know, one thing that also humor has, listening to you, Alice, is it's disarming.
Yes.
Okay, it brings tension down. I mean, like it, and even when somebody comes very strong to you, and you a little bit make a little bit a fool of yourself with dignity, then you deflect the attack and
Yep.
bring back an unexpected doses of love that actually disarms the other person and hopefully brings the person to a different mood.
Now, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, what have you seen when someone is negotiating, but they are not tapped into their inner strength versus the transformation that they go through when they discover what their inner strength is and negotiate from there.
First of all, hesitation. I mean, I mean, what you negotiate all the time is very interesting. You have an objective, something you want to get out of the negotiation. But what is in negotiation actually is a sense of self.
So, talk more a little bit about that.
Right. Then every time we negotiate, it is a little bit of exposure of what you are vulnerable about,
Hmm.
and getting to a point of success or not usually gives you a feedback of how good am I.
Right.
Then there is a primary objective in negotiation, which is what you want to achieve, which is external to you. But negotiation is actually a process by which you establish yourself in the world or not. And if you lose in a negotiation, in some way you lose a little bit of yourself. And it lingers with you for a while. Then you have to be able, after a negotiation, whatever happens to you, to be able to say to yourself, I brought my A game to the table. I was all I could be. I was on top shape. I was on my peak performance. And sometimes, even when I am like that, things don't go my way. But I have no regrets because I was on top of what I could be. Now, if you go to the negotiation with a weak sense of self, then you are going to be, if things don't go your way, not only with the pain of not obtaining a result, but deeper pain of saying, I fail myself. Okay, and that's something, a pain that I don't want people to go through. It's not necessary, and it's deep, profound.
So, what I'm hearing you say is that if you understand your inner strengths, you come to the table very, very confident, which is a really important thing to have in a negotiation, right? Confidence. Confidence in knowing how to negotiate, confidence in knowing what you want
Right.
out of the negotiation, right? Versus if you don't have the knowledge of your own inner strengths, then you come to the table slightly insecure, slightly confused, and then when you're going through it, it feels like you're lost right? You're not exactly able to navigate, and then you feel like, oh, I made so many mistakes because I wasn't clear about my objective, I wasn't clear about what I wanted, and then you feel like that is the failure that you're talking about, the sense of failure that you failed yourself, right?
You can always lose a negotiation. You should never lose yourself.
That's very profound. Yeah. So talk a little bit about the work that you do with peak performance.
Well, I go to corporations, I go to foundations, and I work with individuals, with leaders on peak performance. I have a formula, which is positivity plus purpose equals peak performance. Then in this journey, I take people. We first work on establishing, maximizing their top strengths of positive psychology, and how to not only knowing them, but a program of applying them and maximizing them on decision making, on leadership. I go a lot to sales teams. They're down. They are not achieving the results. That's part of what I do. Then I go into purpose. And purpose actually is defined as bringing the best of yourself for serving others. Bringing the best of yourself for serving others. And sometimes we forget at companies and teams that that's basically what motivates us. Bringing and allowing each member of the team and leaders to bring the best of themselves for serving others. And when you put those two together, the strength of positivity plus serving and purpose together, explosive.
Yep.
Explosive, how peak performance. Then peak performance is not about overcoming resistance. It's not about pressing.
Right.
It's not about fixing. It's about nourishing and allowing and unleashing. It's a completely different paradigm. And Alice, we live in the world where they taught us fixing instead of nourishing. That we achieve things by fixing.
Right.
That happens because in the corporate world, the beginning of consulting borrowed its model from medicine. Few people know that.
Oh, I did not know that either.
Yes, that the first models of consulting for corporations, for organizations, was borrowed from medicine. That's why we have diagnostic. You look at the measurement. The language that we use for consulting is much, a reflection from medicine. Then medicine cures a sickness. Then we begin with sickness as the baseline.
Right.
No, I say no. Nourishing instead of fixing. We have to shift the culture, and that's what I do. And once I shift the culture, I help people shift the culture. Wow, they excel.
Yeah, I love it because we have such an overlap in terms of the psychology, right? There's so much psychology involved in peak performance, in negotiation. I talk a lot about, like you were mentioning, positivity, and you talked also about curiosity, love of learning. All of those things are integral in order to have a successful negotiation because, as you were talking about working with sales teams, if they're there simply to overcome objections, it's not going to work. But if they're there with curiosity to learn more about how they can serve their customers, that is the golden door, right?
That's what I do. I just today read amazing study about gratitude in the workplace.
Yep.
Where do you place gratitude? And the study shows that managers should be grateful for what the employees do before they do the action, not as a consequence of the action.
Right. That is fascinating.
Fascinating. We don't say thank you once the job is done. The study shows that we say thank you before we ask for the task to be done. And when you do that, the task is done much better.
Yes, and more quickly.
More quickly. Then that we know today from science of positivity, little details, that make tremendous difference. And that's what I do. I teach companies and leaders those small little details of positivity and purpose that they shouldn't be done only because it's good to do them. They are valuable in themselves. Actually, they bring results on the bottom line and productivity.
And also, some of our listeners, even if they're not salespeople, like to point out that, just in people's everyday lives,
Oh, yeah.
when they're going about maybe working with customer service, people, you're calling up a company because, you want something. If you lead with grace and gratitude, you will get so much further because a customer service person is merely another human being, right? With feelings. And if you put gratitude towards them and grace towards them, they will want to help you more.
Absolutely. It is a right of every individual to maximize the potential. It's a right. It's a right of every individual at the end of the journey of life to look back and say, I did my best. I think that that's one of the deepest questions that people have and fears. I'm getting older. Life is kind passing by. Am I going to be able to look back and say, I did the best with the cards I got to be the
Yes.
best version of myself? I want to make sure that everybody can answer that question positively.
Well, also, people love to be seen and people like to be thanked. So when you thank someone or you show that you see them, that you see that they're trying to help you, it's going to, it's like watering a flower, right? You water the flower grows, right? So as humans, we like to be appreciated, we like warmth. And so if you can show that to everyone as you go around in the world and you're showing people that you're grateful and whatnot, then when you're negotiating the day-to-day things or calling up customer service or this or that, you will get a lot more because you're showing up, and it's very similar, your peak performance. It translates to regular life, right? You don't have to be a salesperson to use all of the things that Alfredo is talking about. You can use these things in your own lives.
You can be nice and successful.
Yes,
They don't exclude each other. Okay.
absolutely.
And I would say even more, Alice. Research shows even more than you can be nice and successful. That people who are nice are more successful.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Then I give you an incentive. You should be nice because your parents told you so. And Alfred is telling you, you should be nice also because the research shows that you're going to achieve your dreams.
Yes. Absolutely. I love that, Alfredo. Thank you so much. What a great way to start the day. So if people are interested in working with you, well, first I have a question. Sort of how big are the teams that you like to work with?
Look, I work with a lot with individuals, with executives who want to, maximize their leadership. Look, I like 15 people, but I am keynote speaker. A keynote speaker, I had, given speeches to audiences of thousands. Then I feel very comfortable with the intimacy of a group, and I love the stage too.
Lovely. I know we are both thespians because I love being on the stage and talking as well. So we are very similar, Alfredo.
Great.
So if anyone wants to work with you or get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
First of all, I want everybody to know the strengths. It would be crazy to talk so much about the strengths and then what are mine. Then I will tell you, give your audience a way to know their strengths. I made it very easy. I used to give my website, used to be with my last name, which is basically so many letters that sometimes I get confused about it. Then I had made it so easy. You need to text me the word positive, just the word positive to this easy number, 33777. Then you text me positive to 33777, and I will send you 3 pages with the 24 strengths of positive psychology, a few questions for you to read, and you are going to determine your top 5 strengths in 10 minutes.
That's fantastic.
And then there are a couple of exercises if you want to take it further and see how you want to apply them at work. I give you a couple of exercises to how to use them. Okay, then everybody who's listening today will have access to their own strengths.
Wonderful. And we'll have more information in the show notes for Alfredo. Alfredo, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lovely conversation.
Well, look, you're an expert on this field. Clearly, the way you conducted, an expert on mediating, you actually made me feel so comfortable, expressing myself. Then thank you for creating a community of people who know how to relate to each other, which is what mediation is, mediation and talking, and getting to solutions when people are stuck with problems.
Yes.
Then thank you so much, Alice.
Oh, thank you, Alfredo. All right, listeners, thank you for joining us once again, and until next time.